Let your kids know.
I'll send you the link if you want.
No, thanks.
Got going.
Furniture.
He's on the shop.
Thank you.
Did you unmute himself?
Perfect. No, I'm just watching back the YouTube to make sure that there's. Oh, it's good. Where's the link? It is, I just saved the news article, second one for the report. Oh, see? Okay.
Gonna have to campaign again. I thought I had an easy
Got your
slide,
information
but
on how we're running it? What do you need?
I was looking for I thought there was a pen there, a Sharpie or something. I need to put something behind here so the camera don't shine up my nose so bad.
Like, does not appear live.
Maybe.
Like when I go there,
Click on it.
yeah,
You sure you're clicking on it? Because here's the meeting right here. I've got it playing.
well, we don't have Mr. Gotnachek or
Oh, he's not coming.
George.
No,
No,
he must have got
You
sick.
must have sweet talked him this year, huh?
you know, I haven't heard from Gotchnik. I heard a lot from him the last 7 years, but not this year.
This year's quiet.
Hmm.
Maybe he finally figured it out.
Hello.
Hi, here to discuss evaluation on my property, but I don't think I'm the first one on the agenda.
What's your name?
Stanger,
Yeah, so Doug, right, you're down the line. You are scheduled for 6:55.
Okay.
You got an hour. We ask that you wait outside, outside? Is there anywhere to,
Yeah, we're in the lobby.
or are there chairs out in the lobby? So we're gonna be calling you in one at a time and we'll let you know.
all right.
You've got about an hour. Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Are you here with Howard?
I am.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat. We'll get started in just a bit.
My first one,
Yeah, you're the first one.
well, can't we hear other people's bitches?
You, if you want to hear, you can stay in the lobby in here, otherwise you can call in and listen. We can only have 10 people in the room at a time.
Can you hear me?
I gotta take myself off mute. Now you can probably hear me, huh? We can hear you.
Looks like you got a calling user and Josh.
Yeah,
I think
Commissioner
that's
Chafee.
Chafee.
Is Steve
What?
on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
how you doing?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Good.
Perfect. We were thinking one.
And
No.
she decided she's going to.
She's coming in person now, so I'm not aware of anyone calling in.
I have 6 o'clock. Is that what you have?
Yep.
Mhm.
All right, we'll get started. I'm Steve Holland, board chair. We've got, I'm trying to look around the corner to see John Mickrat because he's
Where is he?
off the screen just a tad. And Matt Ludwig in person, and we've got myself, Josh Moore, and Steve Chafee, the other board members online. So before we start, I'm going to read a little statement here. The governor of the state of Minnesota has issued Executive Order 20-01 declaring a peacetime emergency and coordinating Minnesota's strategy to protect Minnesota from COVID-19. On March 24th, 2020, the Pine County Board of Commissioners declared a local emergency for Pine County. Based on these conditions, the chair of the Pine County Board of Commissioners has determined that the requirements of Minnesota Statute 13D-021 Subdivision 1 have been met and is not practical or prudent for all members of the county board to meet in person. Public is invited to join the meeting in person or remotely by phone call, and the links are provided to the also before and each appointment. Everybody's going to have 10 minutes, but I understand there's only one person, so I will tell in the room right now. So I'll tell everybody this. Anyway, we'll call the meeting to order and we'll rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The Board of Equalization oath. Lori, are you going to read that?
Nope, I'm going to read that. Kelly, County Auditor, Kelly Schroeder. And so, commissioners, I have the oath that you need to take. And so we'll go through that. And then at the end, if we can each just say, I do. So we, Stephen Hallen, Joshua Moore, Stephen Chafee, Matt Ludwig, John Mickrat, do solemnly swear that we will fairly and impartially perform all the duties enjoined upon us by the law as members of the Pine County Board of Appeal and Equalization for the year of 2020.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I'm not sure if I heard Chafee.
I might have muted him, sorry.
Oh, there's Steve. We should be able to hear you now.
I do.
Okay, sounds good. I do have a signature form, but we'll just have the people in person sign and then note who's virtual.
Thank you. And then we're going to, the purpose of the meeting, is that you, Lori?
Yeah, that's me. Ryan, you want to put it up on the screen? That's the PowerPoint. Okay. And Ryan? This is it. There we go. Purpose of this meeting is to provide a fair and object forum for property owners to appeal their valuation and/or classification. Duties of the board is to address property owners' issues efficiently, fairly, and objectively. It is assumed that the assessor has properly valued and classified all property. The burden of proof rests with the property owner. We do mass appraisal. Properties are physically reviewed once every 5 years. The exception to this would be an owner's request or new construction on the property. Taxes payable in 2021 are found by qualifying sales from October 1st of 2018 through September 30th of 2019. This is what determines our 2020 assessed value. How do we come up with our sales ratio? We take the assessor's market value, divide that by the sale price, and that's how we get our ratio. We then have sales study groupings. Those are set by the Department of Revenue. And at the end, we must fall with a median ratio that falls somewhere between 90% and 105%. 2020 assessment in review. The State Board of Equalization, we use 12-month ratios and a study ratio print. This is done by the Minnesota Department of Revenue, the Property Tax Data and Analysis Unit. This is our county-wide state ratio report. This breaks down where we started when we started setting values. So we start with a preliminary median ratio. It's broken down by apartments, commercial, residential, and seasonal overall. Then we break that down into on water and off water. We have rural vacant bare land, which is more than 34.5 acres and less than 34.5 acres. And then we have properties that are agricultural rural vacant land with improved properties. So I've listed the preliminary where we started our median ratio. I then added the final median ratio. I also did the mean. I added our COD and our PRD. For example, if you want to look at what do we have the most of? Overall residential and seasonal properties. The median ratio when we started was at 84.33%. As a reminder, we have to fall between 90 and 105%. So after we made our adjustments, we're sitting at 92.87%. And now before we get started with me going through, we're going to start with Howard. You can come on up to the podium.
Okay, I got a question for you. Last year I told you about a property that sold for $117,000. You had it taxed at $170,000. Did you do anything about that?
What property is that?
That was in Hugo. I gave you the property number last year. We were just breaking down, faking it. You were just faking it, weren't you?
Hugo, Minnesota?
No, Hinckley.
In Hinckley. Well, if they appealed their value or if we found that.
No, nobody appealed it. They let it go back to the bank. The bank sold it for $120,000. They got back home and the guy bought it for $120,000 and was taxed at $170,000. Well, I sold my property finally.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, you were wondering about it. Okay, I sold it for $475,000.
And that included all of your property?
All of my property.
Okay.
That's now let's go through the figures here. How out of line you really are. Kennebec County. Okay, you got it taxed at $492,700. We subtract the 80 acres in Kennebec County at $75,000. Had to put in a sewer system for $14,000. Deed and taxes and fees, $1,613. Broker fees, $21,000. Verizon Tower, $75,000. So actually, my $492,700 is down to $275,000.
Did you put
Now,
the
you are
Verizon?
just like a rabid dog. We got to take all of you people from the county out behind the barn and do what we do to a rabid dog, taxing me like that for over these years.
Mister,
Something wrong with you.
that's enough of that talk.
No, that's enough. What do you mean it's enough? You idiot. Taxing me double? You got a bunch of idiots down there at the courthouse, just like the governor. Now you're gonna tax everybody more so you can build up Lake Street again, right? Because the cops are a bunch of chicken shits. I'm an old man.
Sir?
Back in 1978, when the niggers were rioting on Lake Street and the bikers had guns and stopped them. Then they went to North Minneapolis and started burning that. Then they went across the Plymouth Avenue Bridge and the Polacks were all there with guns and stopped them. Why don't you stop them? They're wrecking our taxes. I'm so glad I found some idiot to buy some fucking property in Pine County. I'm so glad to get the hell out of here, you bunch of idiots.
Thank you, sir.
Fuck you.
Well, that was fun.
That was a good start.
Colorful.
Okay, well,
So I have a question.
go ahead.
I want to go back one slide, or no.
The overall countywide,
The countywide ratio,
yeah,
the residential SR, whatever, you said it ended up at 92.87.
yeah.
Is that our final, or what's this final mean over here? This other,
Yeah, so
why do we have two finals?
so because we use the median, that gives, that's what we use to set our final ratios. The mean is when we take the average. We don't want to take that because of the outliers, so that's going to skew our values a
So
little.
which one are we using?
The median, always use median. The first one.
Well, there's both say final median.
They're,
Oh, one's mean. Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, so
Okay, so this, okay,
the first two columns are
Got
what
it.
are going to want
Got
to use.
I was just skimming, so thank you.
And of course, that's countywide. And what I forgot to mention, of course, is then we break it down even further per township or city.
Okay, thank you. That was for me. So I said.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a question for Lori.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, you've got down here at the very end of this thing, because Mr. Molstead continues to refuse access to his property, no change can be made at this time. So I guess my question is, do we still have to allow somebody like this to come if they're not willing to abide by
Go out there.
It doesn't make sense. Why would we even let them come,
Thank you.
Right,
but we can't do anything?
right. And although they know that, they still have the right to appear.
Okay.
And so
But-
we'll still repeat the same thing. That
He sold it now, so maybe.
he has sold the property. That was gonna be part of something I'll talk about. There was a pending sale.
Yeah, I
We can
know, but the
Jump
department,
ahead if we're running ahead of schedule.
Yes, we actually could, because Javon Parker is coming.
Okay. You want to?
So Steve, we can touch upon that a little bit later. We're gonna hear Doug Singer, excuse me.
Yep, that's it.
Long day. Because you've been here, that's a great idea. And so what you're gonna do is just go ahead and talk and,
Oh, yes, I'd like to discuss the overvaluation of one of my properties in Algagama Township. To start it out, I know I paid a little bit too much for the money, for the property, and that's neither here nor there. But the reason that the property value went up so considerably was because of a driveway that was installed. And from what I have a letter from Karen here, was also giving it great access to the property, and that's what I'd like to dispel today. And so, I actually have some paperwork. I don't know if you want to circulate it around if we have it. So I actually have a good mark back.
Yeah, you don't have.
yeah, we don't have that one.
We can look at it.
What's that?
You can hand it out.
I can, okay. First one is a picture of the property that I'm dispelling, the circled area there. The triangle is the actual driveway that was installed. I traded 1 acre with the homeowner right behind me, and that's how I picked up that triangle. And then you can actually see that orange signifies there's a driveway in the triangle, it's the orange, and then the orange is an ATV trail that takes it out to the second 80.
How long is that?
The driveway is about 200 feet long,
Okay.
and the road itself is about, the trail's about 900 feet long. Okay. Next, here's a beautiful picture of the driveway. Looks real nice. It looks like a legal driveway as a driveway should be.
Does that 900 feet include the driveway
No,
trail?
no, just the trail. Trail is a separate 900 feet. Driveway is a separate 200 feet. And it looks nice. I mean, it looks like it's 20 feet wide, like it's supposed to be, the 2 inches of gravel. It's supposed to have class 5 on top of it. But actually, it ended up being was,
You can start them with her.
okay, I'd like to actually split the driveway in half. They have 2 culverts. The first half looks pretty good. It's got the 21 foot like it's supposed to have, and it has 4-1 pitches on the side. It just doesn't have the class 5 on it. The second half, they used the second culvert. It's only 24 feet long, and it's about 3.5 feet up like this. So it was a 12-foot driving surface that's already breaking off on me. So it's not much of a driveway. The culvert needs to have 20 feet added to it, a bunch of gravel brought in, and then class 5 to make it an actual good, dependable, a driveway that I could use to drive in and out right now. I can drive my little baby car in there, my track loader, or my ATV. So here's an example of what it's not class 5 on the road surface, but it's soft. They didn't even pull all the black dirt out from underneath when they did the front part of it. But then you can see where it's eroding on the side, and it's just big chunks of gravel. It's not an actual finished driveway like what Pine County required. So I believe it's supposed to be 20 foot and then 4-1 pitch on the sides and then have black dirt and so you can grow vegetation. And then the third, I'll try not to ramble on to here. So now you get to the trail, 900-foot trail right here. And there's a series of 3 low spots in there. And the low spots, it's an alder brush swamp, but the trail's overall 8 feet wide. There's 3 low spots that together equal about 400 feet. Okay, on the driveway, talking to a road contractor, a lot more high on there.
Okay,
And it's an odd setup because they're almost intertwined with each other. You have to have easements on one or the other to sell them as standalone properties. And that's how they were purchased and that's how they're wrote up as right now.
so we're just gonna do just hang on then and I'll.
Yep, and so what will happen now is we'll go through all of the appointments.
Okay.
And then at the end of the meeting, the commissioners will go through and make their decisions about what they're gonna do. And
Is that where we can have more
I
discussion?
will get a letter out to you.
Yes.
I will
Okay.
form a letter to let you.
Yeah, I know. So
You can also call
to
in and
myself.
listen too.
We can call into the meeting tonight?
Yep, yeah.
Oh, I didn't get that phone number.
It was on the door.
Oh, okay, I can get that. All right.
Thank you very much. You had a good presentation.
You did.
We like listening to people that are reasonable and we will consider, what you've presented to us.
Yep, and I'm just trying to be fair and use some common sense.
Yeah, so are we.
Yeah, okay, appreciate
All
that.
right. All right.
All right.
Thank
Is he
you.
gonna wait,
Thank
or-
you.
You gonna wait?
Take it back?
I don't need it.
No, we'll keep it.
I made dual copies of everything.
I'll keep it for you.
All righty.
All right.
Have a hard drive too.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Jeffrey Nelson is next.
Tom and Sharon Gorman were at 6:35, but we're running a little ahead of schedule. I know a gentleman just walked in.
Who was that guy that was just here?
Stanger.
Oh, Stanger.
Yeah, he got here before the meeting started, and so instead of making him wait an hour.
Okay, yep.
Mr. Nelson is here if you want to continue rolling with folks who are here.
Yeah, that's just fine. So we're gonna hear from Jeff Nelson next.
Okay.
So we're kind of jumping out of order here, but if they're here, we might as well get started.
Morning, everyone. I should say. Long day.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, guys.
We got
Some
10
are
minutes.
virtual.
They're remote up on the
Our
screen.
remote on the screen. The chair is the one on the right.
Okay.
Hi, Jeff.
Should I start here or what's,
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Yep, you can
You
go
got-
ahead.
do you have any ways to broadcast documents to the offsite people or no?
Nope, not if you didn't provide them to us ahead of time.
All right, I'll go through with what I got then. All right, so I call it the presenting problem. What was it that triggered me to want to be here today? On August 31st of 2018, I bought my house for $210,000. The last assessment by the county, which would have been, I think, effective somewhere around the 9/30/19 valuation time, was $259,400. That's a 25.5% increase since the time that I bought my property. And I just find that unfathomable. So that's why I'm here today. I have a graph here.
You can start with me and I can pass it down.
I only brought a few of them, sorry.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, it'll come down. That's
Yeah. You can get one to Mr. Mitchell out there, then I don't know if you have any you can show.
All right, so what I did here was I just did a simple graph. This was my next step. And basically the top blue line is the different assessed values by the county. And the bottom line, the red one is my purchase price, which is the lower red dot. And the second dot to the right of that, the red one is I had an appraisal done on my property, and that's where that one came in at. The blue dot right above my lower red one was last year I talked to the assessors and they agreed to drop down from some $246,000, something closer to my original purchase price of $210,000. It was close enough at that point, and I said, I'm done. I got so much else on my plate that I stopped at that point. But it was interesting to note that the trend line on both of those graphs is about the same. And also that whether it was just to accommodate my immediate need last year, but they seem to go right back up to the trend line this year. So chronology wise, on April 28th, I sent an email with the valuation notice and a cover page of my appraisal that I had done. On the 29th, I had sent a follow-up email with a full set of full copy of the appraisal, my appraisal. On May 5th, I got a letter from the county stating the estimated market value was not going to be reduced. The mass appraisal method was once again referenced, and they were very critical of my appraisal that I paid for. On June 2nd, my appraisal was not accepted, so I wanted to understand how they were getting at the county's number at this point, since they weren't taking my number. So I requested the detailed calculations that supported the county's value. On June 9th, I received the field card, but once again, there was no backup for the detailed calculations. Yes, it had an inventory of what my property looked like and what was on it, but it still didn't tell me, how did you get to that number? So I did the follow-up. I requested, with the mass appraisal, it's just a regression analysis with a bunch of data points. So I requested the regression formula and a data set that was used for the mass appraisal calculations. On June 12th, I received an email from the county saying that the field card was provided earlier, showing details of the evaluation. The mass appraisal method was again referenced. Disconcerting to me was, and I'm quoting this one, in the end, it does not matter how our value is determined, but what the estimated market value is. At this point, I wasn't sure. Well, are you using the mass appraisal method? Are you using market value? How are you getting, well, okay, fine, call it market value. How are you getting at the market value then? I still haven't gotten that answered. The field card. The one comment on there says the overlooks the small unnamed lake. It's not a lake, it's a pond. It does not meet the definition of a lake per the DNR. Most of that pond is 18 to 24 inches deep. There's weeds all around it, and there's no wave swept shores. It is a pond, it's not a lake. It's also not listed on the DNR's list of lakes in Pine County. So without the data set, I did a sample of the properties that were around me. Let me get it here.
Yellow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Who did your appraisal?
I can get it. It was, I'll have to look it up, sorry.
Midwest Valuation Company out of Maple Grove.
So we have make them grow.
It was for his mortgage, it looks like.
All right, so Pete, I started off and I said, okay, what are the properties immediately around me? And then I started looking, and I got this off the website. And I then started thinking about, well, I should try to find properties that have a pond on, so I started focusing on those. And my numbers, at the bottom of, I had two sections. One was the total market value, and the other was for the land only. On the total market value, and my property is the one on the left highlighted in yellow. Technically, I suppose I shouldn't have included that one when I'm comparing mine against it, but I did include it in the all category. From 2019 to 2020, the property values went up 9.2% of the sample that I selected. If it had a water source on it, a pond or a river, those properties went up 8.6%, and mine went up 15.91%. I also looked at the land values. In doing the same process, my sample of 30 gave me a land value increase of 2.09%. If it had a water source on it, it was 1.17, and mine came in at 3.21. When I look at the cost per acre for the land, the all was $1,130. If it had a water source, it was $1,035, and mine came in at $1,922. The standards for mass appraisal of real property, I looked up that. And on section 3.3.1, under property characteristics, you're supposed to be picking up stuff, but I didn't see anywhere where it had the proximity to railroad tracks. That would be a highly negative item for most property values. And I don't think that was in the mass appraisal formula. It also said that under paragraph 5.5, the staff should also be prepared to support individual valuations as required, preferably through comparable sales. That was not done. Further in that section, a property owner should never be told simply that the computer or the system produced the appraisal. I can't tell you how many times I heard, we use the mass appraisal system. Well, that's the same as the computer calculated it. Further on, in all cases, the assessment office staff should be able to produce the sales or appraisals of similar properties in order to support or at least explain the valuation of the property in question. That was not done. Just from a theoretical standpoint, since I have the podium, some of the things I see with problems with the mass appraisal system, it excludes sales by sellers that are under duress, like a short sale, which increases the selling price or the selling pool, but it does not exclude buyers under duress. An example there might be somebody that is moving for a job and they need a house right now. Those items are not picked up at all, and that would artificially increase the value. Mass appraisals, I think, are faster and more convenient for a county that has to assess hundreds thousands of them. But I don't know that it's more accurate than a simplified method. Or sorry, a sales approach method. My biggest issue that I have is I don't think that there's a way for truing up the system, because you're doing a mass appraisal estimate year upon year upon year. And I give two examples. One is if you're a business owner and you have an asset, you depreciate it. You estimate the depreciation every year, and then when you go to sell it, you have a gain or loss on the sale of that particular asset. The same is true for individual income taxes. You pay in an estimated tax through your W-2 withholdings or quarterly estimated payments, and then at the end of the year, you file your 1040 return and you true up what was your actual tax compared to what you had estimated. In the mass appraisal system, I'm not seeing where the county is truing up at any point what the actual fair market value is. And the only way you get that, I believe, is when you actually buy or sell a house that's not under duress by either the buyer or the seller. And in my case, the seller waited like 8 months before he sold the property, and I'm certainly not under duress either. So I think that was a true assessment of the market value at that point in time. I'd like to, we got one more chart here, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the numbers. If you go with the condition that when I purchased the property on August 31st, the value of 210, at that point, per an email I got from the county, the sales ratio was 84.39%. Reducing that purchase price down to 177,219, I'm sorry, reducing this purchase price, it would have brought it in at a value of 177,219. And that would have been consistent with all the other properties on average for the county, since they were all undervalued. And assuming my 210 was a true fair market value. I also read that from the county that there was a 16% undervaluation that they're trying to make up. So if you take the 177,000 and inflate it for the 16%, you come up with 205,574. Also in the email said that the sales ratio for Nicholson Township, where I am located, was still 91.98, so still below. And I can only assume that number will come in the future also. But if I inflate the 205, that gets up to 223,499, which is really close to my appraised value of 225. So I've rolled forward your sales ratios from my purchase price to the appraised value. Looking the next section, I'm talking about the purchase price to appraised value. I bought it at 210. At 9.3% annual increase, it comes up to 225,000. That appears to be pretty reasonable. The average of my sample of 30 came in at 9.2%, which seems again to be pretty reasonable. I looked at Zillow. Zillow was, when I looked at it, was valued on June 9th at 225,949. My appraised value is 225, a difference of 949 at a 0.4% change.
Doug, are you getting near the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Got one more section here. The appraised value to market value. My appraised value was $225,000. The current sales ratio is 91.98. So my proposed value is 206,955. That's the end of my presentation for now.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
I'm Jeff, by the way.
Or Doug.
That's fine.
Doug was the last man. Yeah, so you can go ahead and we'll have you leave. If you want to call in and listen, we will be discussing this later after all appellants have been heard.
After all the what has been?
The people that are coming in to appeal their values.
One more section. There was, the appraised value was critical. The county's response did not pick up the fact that the top level had 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. The appraised value or appraisal had the second or the lower below grade had 1 bathroom and 2 bedrooms. They were critical of they were comparing my garage apartment to a pole building. County said that my garage apartment was valued at $5,000. No, that was the marginal increase, not the $5,000 for the garage. The square footage looked to be a typo. On the back charts of the floor diagram, it said 1,000 some square feet, and it had 500 and some on the front of it. And if you assume it's a typo, all the numbers make sense, and the marginal change in square footage between comparable properties was $30 per square foot, properly accounted for. And there was one other point, and I forget what it was here, but I believe my appraisal was valid. Thank you.
Jeff, have a good night.
Thank you. Who do we have next?
6:35 would be Sharon Gomez. Are you Sharon? Hello. I'm Lori.
I'm Lori.
Corner, but.
Hi, Lori.
Hey,
These are the Gomans?
The Gomans.
yep, Tom
Okay.
and Sharon.
Yes, and Sharon is representing the Gomans tonight.
Okay.
Hi,
Go ahead,
everyone. How
Sharon.
about you?
You got 10 minutes. All right?
Yes, I know. And if you could pull up my first slide. I have it on a jump drive if you need that. It's probably a PDF. Okay, great. Thank you. So Tom and I have lived, or had a cabin here we bought in 1988, and we built a house in 2003. And we are disputing the value of the house as valued in 2021. We should have actually disputed the value in 2020, but we had a bunch of medical issues, and so we missed getting in front of all of you. Our house was originally 1,700 square feet. We added a 3-season porch and a man cave that has mostly a workshop and a garage with a man cave-like bar upstairs. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. We're on a half acre on Lake Pokegama. It is primarily laminate flooring, original appliances, no remodel since we built it in 2003. We do have a metal roof, pine log siding, which is of course high maintenance, and the original windows. If you go to this slide here, if you look at the addition, so first of all, I'm going to start with the value chart on the left. So as you can see, throughout 2014 to 2016, prior to the additions, we were running in the mid 200s, which was really right on, frankly, based on, we had an assessment, an appraisal done, and it came in right at that amount. In 2016, we added it's 2-story garage, which is primarily, as you can see in the picture with the number 1, it's a place to store our boat and tractor. And then there's a workshop left of that. And then upstairs, there's a 16 by 28 that's finished. It's basically a bar and some bunk beds. It is not heated. Then in 2018, we added a 3-season porch, which if you look at number 2 there, you can see in the dotted blue line. So if you go back a slide. Oh, can you go ahead one slide? There we go. So the 3-season porch is 14 by 16 on the lower level and 8 by 14 on the upper level, also not heated. In 2019, between those 2 additions, the value went up about $100,000, just under, which we thought, given what we did, it's probably very fair. And then what happened in 2020, between 2020 and 2021, there was a 25% increase in the value of this property. And that's what we're disputing. I know it's too late to dispute 2020, but we're on a trajectory which is really, we would not be able to sell our house at all for anywhere near this. And let me show you some existing other properties on the lake. So this, I don't know if you're familiar with Lake Pokegama, but it's just west of Pine City. There's been a lot of tear downs, and here's an example of a large house that actually sold for $403,000 in 2017. Unlike ours, that is 1,700 square feet that's heated or 2,500 total square feet finished. This is almost 4,200 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. It is, it's on a spectacular location with, floor to ceiling windows. They just put on new siding and a roof in 2012. It's also on 1.4 acres of land versus ours, which is 0.5. They have beautiful, not only landscaping, but granite steps to the lake. And a 3-car garage that's pictured on the bottom right with totally finished and heated upstairs. If you just go back one slide, you can see that the estimate on that property right now is $456, okay? So a 13% increase in value since 2017. Okay, if you go to the next slide, here's another property actually just down the lake from us that was sold in 2019 for $433,000. And if you look at the property, it's close to 3,000 square feet. Again, that's finished heated. Ours is 1,700 square feet, finished and heated. And I just pulled this right from the ad. I didn't write it. But I think the big thing, it was totally remodeled in 2011, and they have custom maple cabinets, hickory hardwood floors, custom blinds, and what I would call Class A inside stuff. We have laminate flooring primarily, and we don't even have any blinds except the ones you get at Walmart. So no custom blinds in our house. And if you look at the increase in value on this property, a 2% increase since 2019. So if you go to the next slide, this is a brand new home right actually next door to us. And it just finished, and you can compare the two living spaces. And this was appraised at the same amount that ours was. And it's, we don't think the value of our home is appraised properly. These are beautiful homes. We would love them, but, and if somebody would buy our house for that amount, we'd be thrilled, but it will not happen. So if you go to the next slide, the other thing about Lake Pekagama, I don't know if you all know, but it is a lake that floods quite a bit. And we're in that flood zone. So every year, and I've done the assessment, it floods up to our deck. And that's a big reason why people don't want to buy property on that lake. We also have issues with bogs that will land in your property. But most of, less than 12% of the homes on Lake Pekagama sell for over $400,000. This is just a listing of the ones that have sold recently. So what we're proposing is that the value in 2019 that had already been assessed after our 2 additions, we're recommending that an increase of 2%, similar to the other property that's just down the road for us, that would put us at 367. Versus the proposed now. We actually had Molly come out and do a walkthrough again, and she was very apologetic. She said, you weren't here when I came, and I thought this 2-story garage was all finished. I didn't realize it was a workshop and a garage. I thought that you had Brazilian wood in your living room, and it's laminate. She thought that the porch was heated and the upstairs was heated, and it's not. They came back and lowered our 451 by only $16,000. And I think the biggest challenge we have is we don't understand where this number came from. And when we look at comparable properties, there's only 3 other properties on Lake Pekagama that are over 400,000, and they're much nicer than ours. And we're just never going to get that value. And the other thing is, my husband just retired. We've been homesteading, and now that it's been valued at over 414, we don't get any homestead credit whatsoever. So our taxes, if you want to go back to the And I can just tell you, they've doubled in 5 years. So we're over $5,000 now. Excuse me, not doubled, but they've gone up from 3,500 to, so gone up $1,500. And I don't know what they'll be in 2021, but at this value, probably 5,300. I can tell you, we paid less than that when we had our home in the Twin Cities. So we're here. We don't think it's fair. We're hoping that this committee, I believe you're called the Equalization Committee, and I'm just hoping that we can be treated fairly. Any questions for me?
Thank you very much. You did a very good job in your presentation.
Thank you.
In our county, the Pine County Board has all been trained to sit on these committees. And so you're talking to the Pine County Board, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
There you are. The man behind the curtain. Okay.
Yeah.
What will happen now is at the end of all of the appointments today, they will discuss and make a decision about what they're gonna do with your evaluation.
Okay.
Will, as the auditor, be sending you a letter out to let you know what the result is.
Okay. And I was told I could stay for that. Is that true?
Yes.
Well, because of the the situation we're under, we aren't allowing people to stay in the room. You can dial in the number.
Oh, I'll dial in. That's fine. No problem. I totally understand.
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So is the number that I dial into the Teams, is it like a Teams meeting number? I think.
What they had given you originally.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yep. Thank you.
Are you?
The lights just come on. I was looking down and all of a sudden the world was bright.
You've got
68. Doing okay.
Yeah.
What was your name, sir?
Are we on schedule now?
Okay.
Denton Dawson, is that who's up now? All
Yeah,
right,
you
you
wanna
got
move on to
10
Denton?
minutes, Denton.
Okay. I don't have a major presentation for my property. I'm over on the west side of Lake Pokegama. I've had a lot there that does not have lake shore. It's a lot. I've had it for almost 40 years. And my tax estimated market value has gone up 110% for next year. So using the present tax rate as near as I can figure, the tax rate, my taxes would probably go from about 340 to probably somewhere in the neighborhood of around 700, 750 next year. I've done nothing to the lot, absolutely nothing. It's a 60-foot lot, does not have lake shore. It's right near the point. And if we use a minimum tax increase of, let's just say 4% per year, within the next 3 years, I could be looking at somewhere between 125 and 130% tax increase. How high is high? When you start, 3%, 5% of what? I mean, how high are we going to go here? Like I said, I've done nothing to the lot, and I realize that there's kind of a bonanza with the Woods property on the, northwest corner of the lake, that seems to be a driving force since, that property is being developed, that we're just getting higher and higher here, some of us that have been there 40 years. When you start getting close to retirement age, these numbers kind of start getting bigger, and, we can kind of get driven out of here. I would venture to say that probably the non-residents around Lake Pokegama and other lakes in the county probably estimated about 70% of the tax base to the county. Yet Non-residents, they don't get any representation, that's the way it's always been, but seems like we don't even get any consideration. And nothing, no improvements. The road's still the same. Everything is the same. They put the sewer in 97. And of course, we were all assessed for that. So, but I've done nothing to the property. And it's just getting that big of an increase. How high are we going to go here? In another, like I said, 3 years, I could be looking at about, I don't know, $900 a year on a piece of property for taxes. So I just wanted to bring this to the committee's attention, and how high are we going to go here? Is there any questions?
Have a trailer or anything sitting on that lot?
No, nothing. There was a building built there on the lot when I got the property. I've been coming to the lake since about 1957. So oddly enough, my aunt and uncle were the first ones on the lake to have a pontoon. They had their property in 1936. And I've been coming up every year since then. And then in 79, I bought this small cabin. And there was a small shed down near the lake that's still on there when I bought the property. Other than that, I haven't done anything to the property. No well, no nothing.
How long was it classified as a non-conforming lot?
Never been.
Yes, I mean, the value increase was explained to you, Denton, at least 3 times that I'm aware of.
Well, there was something about some buildable lot. Well, all the lots are the same through there. All the lots are 60 feet.
We originally had his site value at 25% with notes in our system saying that it was a non-conforming, unbuildable lot. And that is not true. We've talked with both the county zoning and Pokegama Township.
Okay.
And so that's why the change was made. And that's why he saw such a huge increase.
It was something with the township, I don't know, statute or
Ordinance
ordinance 161 or something.
6.1.1.
Yeah. And I'm not sure, I was never aware of that. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. But it's, the numbers are still the numbers, 110%. So how high are we gonna, 3 years, 5 years from now, I could be looking at 150% increase in 3, 4, 5 years. And
If you were going to sell that lot today, what would you be asking for it then?
I don't know, but if it's sold for 58,000, will the taxes be reduced?
If it was a qualifying sale, it would be put into the sales study. And we'll be looking at that.
Yeah. Here again, when you sell something, car, real estate, whatever, it's worth as much as you can get for it. When we talk about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when there was sales, there wasn't very many adjustments that were made when people were selling their homes and getting as much as they could get for them. You can call them what you want, short sales, foreclosures, whatever, but that's what they were selling for. And I don't think that a lot of counties took that into consideration. They didn't lower what they were selling for. They still kept the same value for taxing. And whether that was right or wrong, I'm not here to make that decision. But whenever something sells, the counties, I'm not talking about Pine County in particular, but the counties keep the numbers up for sales. And then when they're sold less, they don't reduce them. So, your neighbor's house sold for 400,000. Well, then the concept is your house must be worth 400,000 too, because, they sold for that price. This is what the market is bringing. But if they sell for less, they don't go down. That's not a secret. I think everybody knows that.
Okay, Doug, well, thank you.
Okay?
If you'd like to call in and listen, we'll just be discussing this at the end of the meeting. You can sure call in and listen, otherwise we'll receive a letter from the auditor.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Nick Vandersport is next.
Port.
Vanderport?
Yep.
Vanderport.
And he is not here yet. He's got a few minutes still.
Hey, Lori,
Yeah.
this is Commissioner Chafee. I just got a quick question on this guy, on this.
Yeah.
I'm reading here. You suggest, or you guys, it was suggested to him to combine these two lots. How would that affect it?
I didn't hear the first part of it.
It was suggested that he combine that two lots, and how would that affect it?
It would drop his value with the site. And that was suggested to bring his value down, and he won't do it because he can make more money selling them separately. So.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question then. If he combines them, does that mean he could never sell those separate again?
Well, that's a zoning question.
Right, and so he would have to meet current zoning regulations to be able to, split that out, separately.
So he might have to get a variance.
Right, but under county zoning, it would be allowed. I'm not familiar with Takema zoning.
Yeah.
To know, what their minimum.
Takema does their own zoning.
So he did not look into that.
As far back as I can see.
So he got a
He got all those-
non-conforming rate
You found
all
someone.
those years.
Yeah.
Have Dan Berglund, if we want to jump ahead to Dan.
Yeah, we sure can.
All right.
Dan, how you doing?
Good.
So you can just stand right here at the podium.
Okay.
Myself, Josh Moore, and Steve Chafee are remote. And John Mickret and Matt Ludwig are in person. So you've got 10 minutes to plead your case.
Okay. Ready, go?
You're ready to go.
Time's running, no.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is, it's my 80 acres up by Duxbury. And I'd just like to say first that I purchased this land in the 80s when there was a drought. I mean, the whole 80s was really a severe drought. So I assumed it was higher land than what it is. So I never really complained earlier. But now in the last 20 years, most of it has been underwater and most of it is, almost all of it is wetland. And I've got a map here I can show you. There's only part, probably about 10% of it that never gets wet. The rest of it always does. Every year you can count on it.
How many acres do you think are wet?
80, 85.
You think 85?
No, I'm
They're wet?
thinking 90, excuse me. I'd say 70.
You think 70?
Can I show you this?
Yeah.
Okay, the hash mark stuff is the stuff that never gets wet. The rest of it always does.
Okay.
I would have figured it out, but it was too many loose angles.
People staring at you.
No, I don't want that.
Hey, Dan.
So you can
Yes.
keep talking. I'm just going to pull up my beacon and take a look here.
I'm just curious, are there like black spruce or tamarack or anything growing on it? Black ash?
No, not much. There was a lot, but most of it died because there's been a beaver dam on Johnson Creek for the last 10 years. And most of the trees on that side of this 80 are dead, have died from the water. And it's inaccessible. We can get as far as our gate in the springtime or when it rains a lot. We can go in about a foot onto that property without going into water.
I can see it's wet.
And you can't go in, in the spring because the water's too high. You can't get to the property. You can only get to the gate. And you can't get there if we get like a 5-inch rain or heavy rain, you can't get to the property. And you can't get in when there's freezing because the creek is half frozen and you can't get in. So our main thing to get in is early in fall during hunting season and not until the middle of winter. And then possibly in the summer if it's not a wet summer. But the property that I have, I enjoy the little strip that stays high because that's where our road is and that's where we go. But a good 80% of that land is wetland. And it's, I mean, anybody wants to come and walk through it with me, you can put your boots on, up your knee boots, and we can walk through it. And you can see on this map, you can see where high ground is because of all the trees. See, this isn't my property, but you can tell that's high ground. The rest of this is all low ground except in that little area there that runs along that area.
So is it valued as highland, the whole 80?
Yes. Most of it is.
No, that's incorrect. I'm sorry to interrupt. We have, so this is one of Bob Brewster's areas, and we've got 50 acres of low ground.
Okay.
So we have a lot of low ground.
And it's actually about 70.
Well,
if you look at that.
When I turned on our wetland layers on Beacon, which have been updated in September of 18, I saw a lot less low ground, and I actually questioned that and talked with Bob this morning. But he didn't feel that we needed to bring it down, and he felt that you were right where you should have been with the 50 acres of low ground.
Well, I would sure dispute that, and I would take anybody out there to walk after any kind of rain.
Did you call Bob or contact him at all? No.
You got back from Arizona and I got that, and I should probably go talk about it.
Okay.
So probably what you're doing is comparing it to my neighbor's property that sold for $200,000. But those two pieces of property are not comparable.
Nope. We literally look at high and low ground, and we can do that through Beacon with our updated layers now. So am I able to keep this?
Yeah, I can.
You're done? Because I'd sure like to give it to Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I talked to Bob about
But
it.
you can see there's no trees on almost all of this, and where there are trees, this has all been flooded by beaver in the last 10 years. And so that's all been underwater. That's always swamp. That's always swamp.
See, and I'll show you what we have here in Beacon. Let me get this off. So this is what we look at. And I turned on our wetlands layer. So this is your parcel. And this is what it shows. These green areas. Of course, this is the river, but this is what we show as low. And then you've added some additional over here.
I just gotta show you something. See this spot right here? Here's my shack and there's a trail here. My dad, 4 years ago, buried his truck right there. And that's not considered wetland on yours, but.
No, but Bob accounted for that because this only adds up to 16 to 20 acres, 24 acres. And he's literally given you a lot more of low ground.
So if I'm 60% low ground, it's still worth $90,000.
Well, you've got 80 acres here with an $89,000 value, so about $1,000 an acre.
That just doesn't work out with the on wetland.
Okay.
You can have whatever you want on that graph, but.
He isn't, we're not even valuing you at the higher wooded acreage. We're giving you fair because of the location, how the river falls and where the road comes up. So, I mean, that's even been dropped down.
But see, when he dropped it down, I feel this property I'd be more than willing to pay $700-800 a year. I was paying $1,200 before he came in. So then we're down to $7, and I thought, that's fair for this wet property.
In taxes, you mean?
Yes, now it's back up to $1,000.
Well, and so that's.
It will be $1,200 next year.
But see, of course, we're here to talk about the value though.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the taxes. So.
Right.
It really comes down to whether the 89,000 is the right value for your 80 acres.
Yeah, and I don't think so.
Right, and that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just too much. I wish it wasn't all that much wetland, but it is. It just is.
Is there anything wrong with your cabin, or have you improved your cabin in the last 5 years? Okay.
That's the other thing. I don't know if you're comparing it to the neighbor at all, but I have no sewer, no water, no electric, nothing.
You're not showing any of that, right? So that's not it. Because I really looked at this. And then I talked to Bob on top of that to make sure, because we didn't have the time to get out and take a look.
Yeah.
So.
Well.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to say?
Well, there was just two things. The last two times I went to meetings like this was the answer I got the last time, or the second to last time. The guy said, you can afford it. That was my answer.
Here in Pine County?
Yes. And then the next time I went, I took all my property at home and compared it to the neighbors. who has more lake shore and a bigger piece of property, you know what they told me? We need to tax your neighbor more. So that's my results I got the last 2 times. I said, I didn't come here to raise my neighbor's taxes. I came here to talk about mine. That's what I got.
It may be that they looked at your neighbor's property and they realized that what they were showing in our system was incorrect. So that's,
Did you come to the county meeting or the township meeting?
Township.
Yeah,
And the county
I think-
assessor, county guy was there.
yeah, but this is the first time that I've been on the board that you've come, I think, to the board meeting.
Yeah,
well, you're probably talking about the local board. You went to New Dozy Township.
yeah, I went to Cloverton
Yeah,
and I also went to Shingwatana when I did.
good property in Shingwatana.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
So the property I live on, I went and talked about that. And that's when both times were, you can afford it. The next year was, we're going to raise your neighbor's taxes. Okay,
Well, that's coming from the township though, of course, now we're,
this was the county assessor that was there. What was his name? You know him. He was the umpire,
well, it,
the county assessor at the time.
but quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just don't want that after that.
I would never say you could afford it. I don't know you.
Yeah,
Even if I knew you, I wouldn't be
I
saying.
don't know what you, well, I got it told to me though. I don't know why you said it. I thought, well, that about floored me. Okay, that's a good
Well,
argument.
I'm sorry about that.
Mhm. Then when you raised my neighbor's taxes, I didn't think that was proper either. Anyway, I guess that's about all I got.
You haven't, you
Thanks, Dan. We'll take a look at it here and see what we can figure out.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
What do you feel would be the fair valuation for this 80?
Probably 60,000.
What do you think the value of your cabin is?
It's only 16 by 20, I suppose 15. It's on blocks, there's no foundation. And
Yeah.
Small.
So you think the $15,000 value for your cabin and only 45,000 for the 80 acres? Okay. Okay. So we'll go ahead and discuss this and then you'll get a letter from the auditor.
Okay, all right, what are we gonna do?
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Dan.
Nice to meet you.
Did Nick Vanderport show up?
Walking in.
Oh,
I thought Dawson too, right?
no, we already heard him.
You did Dawson?
Yep, we've done everyone now but Nick.
Oh.
Nick,
Hello,
hi, come on here. You can stand right here at the podium. I'm Lori.
Lori.
Nice to meet you in person.
Cool.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is you're just gonna go ahead and talk about what you feel your value should be. And then when you're done, we'll have you leave. We'll discuss it and then you'll receive a letter from the auditor's office with our decision.
Okay,
Okay?
sure.
Go ahead and get started.
Well, 152,000 was what they wanted to, and then they lowered it to 149 because they found a mistake. But, I mean, I was set to go up 19,000. Now I'm set to go up 16,000. That's quite an increase. I only paid 137 for the house. You know, it's like 13% increase or so. It's kind of, to me, I looked at some of my neighbors on Beacon there and it went 9,000, 8,000, 5,000. Somebody went up 14,000, 11,000. Somebody went down 4,000. Somebody went up 1,000. But, you know, I'm the winner of this. I'm winning the high, you know what I mean? I don't know why my house, it's on a, you know, a dead end road, which is nice. It's got the road goes through the property, but it's nice. It's bad at the same time. I got a road going through my property. In the wintertime, the snow plow driver plows all the snow up to the back of it. You can't go back there in the wintertime. With the spring and, you know, it's flooded back there. You can't even drive back there. People park at the end of my road there on my property so they can walk back to their hunting stands and go hunting back there. The house itself, it was poor, you know, the words of the guy who had lived there, one of my neighbors for years, said the guy built it real quick. He said he put it up in a couple of days. Another neighbor said the last 10 years, the previous homeowner let the place go to, you know, to crap, basically. You can see it in some of the pictures. It's got 2x4 walls. It's got that brown foam stuff, and they put new siding on it. You can't do that with that brown foam stuff. The guy took a lot of shortcuts. He put a few Band-Aids on it. And if you look at the pictures on the real estate or the, where you look at homes when they
MLS.
list homes, you can tell Molly went out there. She said it was a professional photographer that took those pictures. And she went out there last year. She came out and lowered my assessment down to 133. And, now it's set to go up to 152. It's like a $16,000 increase. I just don't understand why it's going to go up so high. And you guys aren't going to discuss that with me.
Well, you and I have discussed this and you have discussed it with Molly. What you're seeing is market increases. So that's how good the market is. I mean, she's gone out, she's taken a look, she's reduced.
She came out again.
Right? She came out again. She's done a very good job, and we've worked with you, we've talked with you. You've got your appraisal that originally came in at 140. Remember?
It all came in the appraisal, yeah.
Dropped it to 142 because they were looking at.
Had an appraisal done.
Right, but they were looking at manufactured homes in Carlton County, not stick-built homes in Pine.
No, that was the market. That was from, I can't remember, not realtor, one of the real estate companies. I can't remember right now, but he said he made the corrections. He sent me a new one, 125 to 140, but I had an appraisal done. I paid $650 to have an appraisal done. And the guy said it was 142.
142. Right. And so what did he use for comparables then? Those Carlton County properties? Because you didn't get me a copy of it.
I thought I sent you an email.
Nope, I didn't get it.
Oh, I thought I did, but I don't have internet access at my house.
Right.
Well, I wish I would have known that. But I've got like 6 different comparables now. I got Remax, he's got 3, and then now those wanton assessors, he's got 3 of them. So I got 3. I don't know. They're coming up with something.
So
142.
They're coming up with 142 and we're going to be sitting, I'm assuming at 149. So we're very, very close. It's not a matter of bringing it down to your appraisal though. Remember, we do what I call, mass appraisal. We look at all the sales. So we can't take that and that's called spearing. We can't even bring it down to your purchase price.
Well, it was below that before I bought the house. I mean,
we take that into account. It goes into the sales study, but the sales have been just so good because we looked at sales. Remember, we've gone through this.
But there hasn't been any, but those people that live in my area are retired. Nobody's selling or buying homes. This guy, he sold that house. He bought it to like fix it up and flip it or something. He built a new house in Sturgeon Lake. But the people that live there, I mean, there was an older lady and her husband died and then she passed on and I don't know. And those people there hasn't been any, there's a house for sale in Net Lake, a vacation home that nobody lives at. And there's every other house up there is a poor quality built home. And there's one for sale in Duquette that's been for sale for months now. It's missing half the siding on the side. Nobody's selling and buying homes in that area that I'm aware of. And I've talked to my neighbors and, I just don't agree that it went up that high. I don't understand. I mean, even your market analysis, you're selling, homes are selling, what homes are selling? I don't know. What are you basing that off of? What the sales?
Right. So we look at the sales right in Nickerson, what's going on there. There aren't a lot, but there are enough that we have to stay consistent with the other townships in the area. And we have to stay in that median ratio of 90% to 105%.
At 104, like in half.
Well, but we're talking.
After I dropped down to 149, before I was at 107% or 100.1 point whatever 7%. It seems it's kind of high. I'm just not happy with it. My mortgage went up, almost $80 a month, and it's going to go up even more.
Are you talking because of your taxes?
Yes.
Okay. So once again, we're here to talk about your value. One thing I will suggest to you, if you would qualify, we always make sure that we tell people to file for a property tax refund. Have you ever tried doing that?
I don't think my taxes went up high enough.
Okay.
I did try it. I don't think I qualified.
Okay. because that's always one thing that you can do. So what we're gonna do, and unless you have more to say, we're gonna be discussing this between us. You're more than welcome to call in and listen if you'd like. Otherwise, you're gonna be receiving a letter from the auditor's office with our decision.
I can't wait. Can I call in and listen?
You sure can.
All right. Well,
Phone number's posted on the door.
all right. I just want to hear what you guys think.
Okay. It was nice meeting you. All right, you take care.
That concludes our scheduled appointments.
So we'll start from the beginning then.
So the first person you heard from was Mr. Mosted.
So if you want to bring the PowerPoint up then, Ryan, and I'll just follow that along. It won't be in the order of which we heard them, but it's the order I had my PowerPoint ready for. Okay. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Steve.
hi, Josh.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make one just quick comment about this piece. I think we've already wasted enough time on this. I would just move to leave it alone and move on to some people that actually gave us some consideration.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll move on to the next.
So
one.
Ryan, I can't, it's not working. There we go. Okay, so Jeff Nelson is from Nickerson Township. He was the man that passed out all of the handouts. He's got 26.80 acres in Nickerson Township off of State Highway 23. His 2021 value is $259,400. This is he did talk about, he goes, it's not considered a lake. Yes, it's not considered a legal lake. It isn't a small unnamed lake. We do value it as a pond with a higher adjustment.
How much difference does that make? Is it a $10,000 difference on that property or?
Yeah, let me pull it up. $8,500.
Okay, so it's not
So any pond that's over 2 acres, we give it a 2.0 adjustment. If it's less than 2 acres, we give it a half adjustment. So he is not valued any differently than anyone else that would just have a pond in their yard. And this is more than just a pond.
okay.
This is a copy of his guest house that he's got above his garage.
So he has 2 houses.
He's got 2 houses. He's got this home. And he's got this one. So he's got these 2 on the property.
And this guest house has running water and heat and everything?
There's only one picture though.
Yeah, that was the only picture. I don't think they could get around in the back because it's wooded. So we have another picture of his actual house, but this is just from the angle of the pond or the main lake. So Mr. Nelson did provide me with his refinance appraisal that came up with an opinion of value of $225,000 as of December 17th, 2019. The appraisal used the sales comparison approach using 3 comparable properties. However, 2 of those were from Carleton County and 1 was from Pine County. The sales ranged from 3.07 miles away, which was the Pine County property, to 16.5 miles away. The opinion of value is based on Carleton County comparable number 1, There were a number of things wrong with that appraisal, like he said. The subject has 3 bedrooms and 1 3/4 baths versus the 1 bedroom and 1 bath that they stated. So the comparables all needed a positive adjustment. The biggest discrepancy in this appraisal was that they gave a positive adjustment for the 3 comparables pole buildings, and they brought it up $5,000 to equal the guest house and the garage. They also use net adjustments when really you should be using gross adjustments. And what I question here is why he didn't look at comparable number 2. That is the sale that happened in Nickerson Township. It had, it didn't have any positive adjustments for bedrooms and bathrooms, so I adjusted that at a $4,000 increase. And that would bring that value, not looking at the guest house adjustment, to $269,800. If they would have used that in determining their appraisal, which I don't know why they didn't, it was the one that fit all 3 categories there. It would have been a minimum of $269,800 for the value, and Mr. Nelson's value is $269,400. He did see a 15.9% increase in value this year, which our market increases. The market is still good. As a reminder, we're looking at sales that happened from October 1st of 18 through September 30th of 19. Nickerson Township saw a 13% increase in their building values and a 3% increase in their land values, which is where you're seeing that 16% increase. His property has also been physically reviewed, and his value is increased, or his value increase is due to market, and no change in his value is recommended at this time.
Do we do these one at a time, don't we?
Yeah, one at a time.
Okay. So we need a recommendation or a motion to go with the auditor's recommendation or a recommended change.
Commissioner Moore will move to go with the county's recommendation.
I'll second. Ludwig will second.
Is there any discussion on that? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, we'll move on.
Okay, so we're going to move on to Thomas and Sharon Goldman. Their property is located at 16741 Sunset Trail in Pine City on Pekegama Lake. Their 2020 value was $418,700, and their 2021 value is $435,000. This is the garage she was talking about. It's a 2016 finished 28 by 36 garage with approximately 16 by 28 unheated finished living area above. This was originally valued as a 2-story unfinished garage. We received information as to the finish and adjusted our records for taxes payable in 2019. Man cave with 1 bedroom, a half a bath, a bar area, and a living room is what's up there. We were contacted by the owners, and interior reviews were made of the house, detached garage, and the area above that detached garage on May 26, 2020. After the review, corrections were made to our records, and the Goldman's value decreased from $451,000 to $435,000. So you have to remember, when the appraiser goes out to review new construction, if we're not able to get into the home, we have to make assumptions, and that's what was done. The Goldmans contacted the appraiser, she goes out, and we corrected our records, which brought it down then to $435,000. Mrs. Goldman has provided information regarding her home and what she feels are comparable sales. She talked about her original appliances. Remember, those are personal property. We don't look at those. Those aren't taken into consideration when regarding value. Balance of her information was correct. She questions the large increase in value since 2017 and 19. Simply speaking, the building, she added 2018 additions to the house and adding the garage with the upper finish and that was completely finished along with market increases in Pekegama Township. That's what accounts for her increase. She pulled permits both in 16 and 18. The appraiser went out to the property both times in January of 17 and February of 18 and left notices as to the new construction. Again, she was contacted, did the review in 20, and that value was brought down. She showed 3 properties as comparables. They all sold for over 400,000. That last one, that brand new house, which was next to hers on Sunset. Right, but that's a newly built home that we have only valued at 354.6. It almost seemed like she had more information that we aren't aware of because we haven't done interior reviews. And so I don't want to say that we're incorrect on some of these comparables, but we're going to definitely take a look because I think we're missing some information. But you have to remember that last home, that home is approximately 500 square feet smaller than her home.
It was bigger than her home, wasn't it?
No, it's actually smaller. And the Goldmans have, let's see, it had the same bedroom and bathroom count. There's no attached garage to the house where they have a 780 square foot finished garage attached to their home. Mr. and Mrs. Goldman, and they also have that finished detached garage with the finished man cave on the second level. There have been a lot of sales in Pekegama Township. 11 of them were qualifying sales on the lake. And when we ended up doing our ratios, we sit at 96.95%, which really would be perfect if I could do that everywhere. And again, I am recommending no change. We've been out there, we've looked at it, we've corrected it, and there is nothing wrong with her value.
So what you're.
Lori?
Yeah. Oh.
I just was curious, in that man cave? Is there water to that? I know it's not year round, but is there water up there?
Yeah, there would have to be water because there's a half bath.
Well, that was my question. So,
yeah.
So what do they do in the? Do they heat it in the winter?
It's not heated.
They said it's not. They said it's not heated, but there is a half bath.
Okay.
And a bar area, but I don't know exactly what that means. If there's a sink, or I'm guessing.
I thought she had a very compelling argument with those comparables because most of them that I looked at, I thought the square footage was bigger. And the appraisals were all less. And they were newer.
But those aren't appraisals though. She's pulling, was it Zillow? Yeah, so those aren't actual appraisals. Now, we've spent quite a bit of time with her on the phone too. And she will not get an appraisal for her own home to see what it's worth. And when we've asked her, she won't answer.
Oh, from that same company, you mean?
No, this is someone else. Yeah, this is someone else. So, it makes me wonder if we're going to be looking at these other comparables. But you can't just look, it depends on too what she took into account as her overall square footage too. Don't include the garage. Don't include, and she's got other, that man, the finished garage with the shop and the bar area finished on top, there's value to that.
I get that. I'm just trying to, so, and then the flood issue, what does that bear on their lot?
Well, Kelly, you might have to help me out with this because this is the first time I've heard of a flooding issue on Pekegama there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a lake, it gets high water. So she had noted that it goes up to their deck. And so, this was a 2004 built home and the additions in 2018. They had to be above the 100-year floodplain.
Yeah, 212.
Right.
But she, and I get that she was concerned about her increases and I understand that, but she saw those increases because of the new construction, because of the additions she added on.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question was most of these increases, because they did go up a lot, but most of them were because of they actually increased the square footage and did improvements to them.
Exactly. It all had to do with their new construction, and when you couple that along with the market increases that we've been seeing, she would have seen a higher increase versus someone who has not added anything at all. So.
Do you foresee this one kind of leveling off a little bit here? I mean, they take a pretty good hike, but do you see them, kind of getting, what do you say, market adjusted and then hopefully stay consistent for a little bit, or?
Yeah, I can't even give an answer to that because we really don't, it really comes down to what the market is doing. So for next year, we are looking at sales that happened in October of 19 through September of this year. I can tell you right now that October through March, before the pandemic hit, the sales were good. And even though the sales have lessened, I'm still seeing that they're selling more than our value. So there's no guarantee that it's going to plateau or come down, at least not this year, but we still have time to go. Troy, have you noticed any decreases? No.
Any of the splits I've been doing or anything like that, they're still paying good money.
They're still paying good money for what's out there.
So what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to go with the recommendation.
Ricardo second.
Got a motion by Chafee, seconded by Mickret, to go with the assessor's recommendation. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no.
Aye.
Any opposition? I hear none. We'll move on.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to Doug Stanger. Okay, so he's located in Ogama Township and he purchased this property, almost 160 acres, separate parcels back on September 20th of 19. He paid $225,000 for the property. This is just a picture of the two parcels. So you can see the lower parcel has access to the road. I believe that's Grace Lake Road, if I remember correctly. And then he's got that northern 80 to the north. He purchased these parcels again in 19 for $225,000, excuse me. Our ratio at that time sat at 58%, which triggered a site visit by the appraiser. At that time, she discovered a driveway with a culvert. Actually, I now know there are two culverts that had been installed to the parcel to the south, and he now has access to Grace Lake Road due to a recent split and reconfiguration of the parcels. Because of this, his value increased. So when I say that, we always have that site, that 1 acre that's considered the site. When you have a site higher value, that means you've got access to the road. You're on a road and it possibly could be buildable. He didn't have that value. When he bought the property, they reconfigured it so he actually had access now. So of course he's going to have an increase because of that. And the acreage, the 80 acres to the north, his value increased. Now, he didn't have a problem with this increase. And we actually corrected our acreage. We had it in as wooded fair acreage. That means acreage that's more than a half a mile from the roadway to wooded acreage that is less than a half a mile from the roadway, which has a higher value. And we added the driveway, but that driveway, it doesn't matter to me what the specifics are, what a driveway is made up of or how it looks. It has a culvert. It's very wide. You may not have class 5 the whole way, but that's considered a driveway at $4,000 in value. His driveway is no different than anybody else's driveway in the township. The point is, he paid $225,000 for it in 2019. Our value for taxes payable next year is $217,200. We're still sitting under what he paid for it.
So what is he complaining? I was completely lost on this one.
Right. I think he was appealing it because he saw such a large increase. But he saw that large increase because he has access now. And so we had to add that in. He put the driveway.
But it's still not up to the market value that he paid for it.
We're not up to the purchase price yet. No.
Okay.
So because of that, I am recommending no change for both of his parcels.
Now, a quick question. I was under the assumption, now, the valuation changed so much because he gained access or because a driveway was put in? Because I asked that question about my own piece of property once, is does a driveway make it worth more or less? You know?
Right.
And I thought I was told it doesn't matter.
No, it does. I mean, your driveway is part of your building amenities. And in this township, there's a $4,000 value given for the driveway. But that's really the least of his value increase. It's because that parcel originally wasn't even on the roadway and now it is.
So that's where most of his came from.
Right.
Access.
It wasn't
Right.
from the construction of the
Access
driveway.
created the increase.
Yeah, it was because of the access. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I will recommend going with the county's approve or recommend.
No second.
Okay, Moore makes a motion, Chafee seconds. Any discussion to go
Brian?
to go with no change as recommended by the assessor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Aye.
Any noes? That passes. Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to
Dawson.
Denton Dawson. He's in Pekegama Township on Sunset Trail. He is appealing parcel 285009000. That is the lot highlighted in light blue. He also owns the cabin and the second structure just to the north of that, 5008. In 2020, his value was 27.9. For next year, it jumps to 58,000. This is the reasoning. This lot, along with other vacant lots that are next to a primary lot with either a house or a cabin on it in this area, were valued as non-conforming lots, and thus the site value was dropped to 25%. We contacted Pine County Zoning Office in Pekegama Township, and we were directed to the Pekegama Township Zoning Ordinance 6.1.1, which indicates these lots can be sold separately. They are grandfathered in and they are considered buildable sites. Based on this information, a full site value was given to the vacant parcels in this area. So he wasn't the only one that saw an increase. They all were looked at and increased. He contacted our office. He spoke with both myself and to the appraiser for Pekegama Township regarding the increase, and this information was relayed to him. It was suggested to him that he could combine his two lots. But he said he would never do this because the property has much more market potential being two separate lots.
Trying to argue.
Mr. Dawson saw the increase in his value because it is a buildable lot that can be sold separately. So once again, I am recommending no change.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just for the record, how long has it been non-conforming and how long has it been getting that break?
As far back as I can go. I went back I can look in the system to 2011. And I know it's probably been longer than that.
So then, My second question is, does that qualify as that was a mistake or is it a correction? Because
No, there were notes in there, and who knows what information they had back in the day. So, I mean, you know, Molly not only went to, our zoning, she went to Pekegama Township, who does their own zoning too. I mean, she really did her research on that.
Okay, yeah, so I know, but people have a thing, if it goes up more than a certain percentage, if there's an error of some sort, that would make, you know, it's a pretty big jump, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm going, that's what I'm trying to.
But he also would give us an answer to what he thinks he could get for it.
Okay.
Because if he was
No.
concerned about the tax, and if he wanted to, he could combine those two. And that would take away a lot of value, but he's not willing to do that.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So my question is if he combined the lots while he owned them both, can he combine them when he wants to sell them, or is it non-conforming? He wouldn't be able to split again. So I guess that's my question, or is that too far in the weeds?
Okay. I think he would have to contact Pekegama Township, right? Troy, do you have?
I would think so, but we have a shoreline ordinance, and isn't that the governing factor here where you have to have 75 feet of length?
But this, let me pull up the ordinance, the county ordinance.
Yeah. I think for Pekegama, I thought it was 75 feet. I mean, this lot's only 60, but it's.
We do have.
Yeah, because it's the whole.
Right.
So I would think if he combines it.
Right, he could
Might have
have.
some issues splitting it back out, which probably is why he does not want to combine it.
Exactly.
He knows.
Yeah, I don't know what happens with the ordinance and the grandfather. That's.
Sword Lakes.
Yeah, as long as, once he combines it, this is David, once he combines it, he cannot later create a lot that doesn't meet existing zoning.
Exactly. Then he'll never be able to divide it again.
Be able to.
75 feet.
That's why he's not. The grandfather is good until he makes it one.
Right, because
he keeps them separate.
Sell them separate and get more.
Yeah, that's what I was curious on, and that makes sense, and that's why I just want a clarification on it. Thank you.
So again, I'm recommending no change.
I'll move that.
McGrath second.
Got a motion by Ludwig, second by McGrath to do no change. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Brian?
Opposed? No. I hear no no's.
Okay, we're gonna move on to Nicholas Vanderpoort. He is in Nickerson Township on Dahlgren Road, 4.5 acres. His 2021 value currently is at 152.3. Here's a couple of photos. I apologize. It must have been very cloudy and stormy that day, but these are photos of the front and back of his house. He's got a walkout Rambler. He appealed his value last year. He bought the property in July of 18 for $137,000. After physically inspecting his property for the 2019 Board of Review, his value was decreased to $133,700. The decrease was based on adjusting the overall condition and remodel of the home and correcting the bed and bathroom count. The appraisal that was prepared for his sale and mortgage was dated in 18 and stated an opinion of value of $140,000. However, the Carlton County properties used as comparable sales were manufactured homes and not stick-built. Mr. Vanderpoort told us the appraisal had been corrected or amended, and it was increased by $2,000 to $142,000. However, no copy has been provided to us for review. However, one thing I want to point out on this one is that based on the county's notes regarding his basement finish, I do recommend a $3,200 decrease in his value to $149,000. Otherwise, no other change is recommended. So I don't see anything wrong with our value at where where it's at, but I would like to see his basement finish decreased by that $3,200.
So that would put his value at,
149.
and he thinks it should be at 142?
He wants it to be at the appraisal, at the appraised value. But his appraisal used all Carleton County comparables. They compared his house to manufactured homes. And even when that was pointed out that that was incorrect, they only raised it $2,000 for 6. So I'm not even sure what they used for comparables. So we feel that 149 is a fair value for what he has.
I would go with the county's recommendation on that. I'll make a motion.
We got a motion by Moore. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Chafee. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. There are no no's. So we'll move on to Dan Berglund's.
Okay, so we have Dan Berglund. His cabin in 80 acres is located in New Dozy Township off of Ennerstrom Lane. Here's a picture of his 80 acres. He's got the Tamarack River running along the east side of the parcel. Let's see, the cabin was built in 1994 and is a 320 square foot loft with 1 bedroom sitting on piers with plywood flooring and walls, convection heat, wood siding, and asphalt shingles. As of the local appraiser's last visit, I did ask him tonight if anything had changed. He indicated no. The parcel has a half a site versus a full site because of access along with 20 acres of fair wooded acreage, value reduced due to the location of the river. And in addition to that, we've got 50 acres of low grounds. We discussed this all just tonight. He's appealing his market value of 89.1. The local appraiser was contacted. I talked with Bob Brewster this morning. We didn't have any time to make arrangements on this one because Mr. Berglund actually signed up late Friday afternoon. Bob reviewed the information. I've taken a look at it, and Bob feels that Mr. Berglund is valued correctly.
When's the last time he saw the site?
2016.
So no one has seen it since 6.
So we go out every 5 years.
Yep.
Yep. So he would be going next year.
And he's saying there's a lot more water now, right?
He's saying there's a lot more water, but you know, that's the problem I had with this because our beacon layers were updated in September of 18 and they're very, they're much more accurate than what they were. I only came up with, I don't remember, 24, 25, but Bob's given him 50 acres of low ground. And so.
Beaver put it in since the picture was taken at 18.
18. But even when you add it in, honestly, 50 acres, it's very close with what he's drawn out here and how I measured it there. We've given him a lot of low ground. And we've also lowered the high ground from average to fair. So we brought that down. His access, which is typically a full acre, we've even dropped that value down to a half.
Also, that's the adjustments you made.
That's a half, yes, that's that adjustment too. I mean, he's really adjusted many aspects of his land. And I guess to be honest with you, I mean, I haven't physically been out there, but 89,000 for 80 acres in that cabin doesn't seem out of line to me with the river running the way it does on the property.
I do have a couple of questions, but
yeah, go ahead.
I did some quick math, and we value swampland at $450 an acre. Is that right?
Let me look here.
We have it as 50.
It's 350.
350.
Mhm.
Okay, then my math is off a little bit, but, still, that would put the remaining 30 acres of highland roughly at the 2,000 acre or 2,000 per acre range, which, maybe is not out of line. If the rest of it's valued at 350 and 15,000 on the cabin, you know, I think it's pretty
He
close.
said 15 on the
He
cabin.
said 15. We have 18. But this is a
Yeah.
point I want to point out, you know, he's got a half adjustment on the SA, but on the front feed, Kelly, if I was doing it, I make those match up. And I don't think we're consistent with that. Troy?
I guess if the front footage there's something wrong with the front footage would be the only time that I would be adjusting it.
Is that the river part you're talking?
Yeah, the river part. Are you familiar with the river?
Yeah, I'm familiar with this country. I trapped beaver up there once.
Oh.
Before it's.
He's got a beaver you can trap for him.
Because that land value has not been adjusted. Bob hasn't adjusted that. And so that's given full value there. So are you familiar with his parcel?
No, not
that area.
None of the last years, but I know it's time for the beaver to move back in there from when I was there because of regrowth.
I do have a question on the beaver. If I bought a piece of land that was, you know, not considered swampland, it had trees on it, and I paid $1,000 or $1,200 an acre for it, and then the beavers moved in, and for 5 years I couldn't walk. I mean, it just kept getting wetter and wetter and wetter and bigger and bigger and bigger. Does that then value go from being upland to the $350 lowland price?
Well, I guess in my opinion, if that's what happened, we'd have to physically come out and take a look at that and really monitor that because it sure could. Have you ever had a question like that before?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on if you took care of the beaver problem, would it go back to high ground?
Well, not usually. It's not. If we're beaver, it's never high. You know what I mean? They can't flood high ground very easy.
So maybe typically we'd have it down as low ground anyway.
But it
could be where we are in the low ground.
It could be low ground that you're not going to build a house in there. But you could walk. You could grouse hunt in there. You could deer hunt. You could drive a 4-wheeler in there, and then the beaver come in, and then pretty soon it's flooded. I've hunted a lot of that country in Shangwatana that, 3 years later, you go back to try to get to your deer stand, you can't get to it. And
I'm not trying to argue.
I never thought about it before.
Because it is low. There's a lot of low up there.
Right. And so, I mean, what's running through my head is what is Beacon showing for low ground? It would be great to have someone who's physically out there.
That's why I asked.
And then let's compare it to Beacon and see if we line up.
That's exactly what I asked when somebody was there. So we're not due for a year or something, right? 16, you said we were there?
Yeah, right. Bob would be going back next year.
So with this property, his big beef seemed to be what was classified as low ground, what was classified as high ground. To me, would that change a whole lot on his valuation? Because you have it as kind of a low wooded anyways. You don't have it as a high value woods. So I mean, just say let's take that 20 acres.
I'm going to make it 70 acres. I'm going to take the rest of the high ground basically and get rid of that.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute.
And
I'm
just
gonna
see
do
where
it. I'm just
throws you at the valuation.
It only dropped it down to 76.
Okay.
Josh, in that one picture with this cabin, you can see there's a Norway pine. That isn't going to grow in low ground. So there's some chunk of high ground there.
And he said the high ground it's really nice, he said.
Yeah.
High ground. The high
Yeah.
ground is high, and that's really nice. The question is there 60 acres of low swampy ground, or is there 50 or 30?
60/20. I don't know. I don't know how it lays out. I can't tell.
I don't either.
That he provided, and can you measure it based on his map?
I can try. The problem is when he looked at Beacon, he said, well, this is really high ground, but that's not what was on his map.
No, it's kind of fuzzy out there. Yeah.
So is there between fair wooded acreage and low ground or not, as far as valuation?
Yeah, there's a difference. It goes from $1,000 an acre, down to 350.
No, is there another classification between?
Not really. The only classification would be no access land.
Okay, yeah, and that was my question. I mean, it goes from low ground, like when you're classifying it goes from low ground to fair wooded. So that's the lowest wooded valuation you have. I guess that's what I'm saying, you know? So do we, I guess personally, I would say, obviously we need to do a site visit, and I wouldn't wait this year, you know, do it. But for now, what if we added another 10 acres to his low ground? Would that, I mean, is it going to make a huge deal?
No, it's not going to make a huge deal. So if I'm going to, hang on, I'm going to do that right here.
And if there was some classification in between them two, do we put that 20 acres in that classification?
It only drops it down to 82.5. So it brings it down about $6,500.
Okay. I mean, it's enough to probably take a look at, and then I could see this even coming back next year, and or you guys doing something. Maybe every party's happy with that, maybe not. I don't know.
Is that a recommendation, Josh?
Yes, I would make that recommendation.
I didn't hear it. What was it?
To bring down the value to 82.5 from 80.
That's because you're adding 10 acres of what?
We're adding 10 more low.
So Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Bring up to 60 acres of low ground, 10 acres wooded, and then the rest is
The river. Yeah. And higher.
Mr. Chair. My reason for the discussion is, so I'm trying to understand how we map low ground on everybody's property. You know what I mean? You look at a picture and it's like, I don't know if that's accurate unless you're a forester who's really used to looking at stuff.
Yeah, so we rely on Beacon and our exam and wetland.
Right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. So all I'm asking is,
wetlands.
yeah, so do you think we're pretty accurate? That's where I'm.
Yeah, we do think we're
Compared to when
accurate.
somebody goes out and
Right.
we can't map them, but.
But in the case of a beaver situation, I mean, there'd be no way to pick that up in the delineated wetlands.
No, I know that. But when you look at this picture, you know, you can see where the river is. And then you can also, those are all beaver ponds. So, they're old ponds.
But that's
Well,
all part of the
we have
low
a
ground.
motion. We have a motion to have this piece of property go to 60 acres of lowland, which would lower the value to 82.5. Is that right?
Yes, 82.5.
I'll second that.
And a second by Matt. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Anybody opposed? Say no. Okay.
Ryan? Thanks.
Lori, I do
Yeah.
have a question that somebody brought up something about duress, buying something under duress.
Yeah.
And the question is, if a farmer has some land that comes for sale right next to him, And they've been eyeing that land up for 2 generations. And the price, they get in a bidding war with somebody and they pay twice as much as it's worth. Is that now the new value of farmland? Or is there some considerations given to the fact that, you know, they bought it because it's right next door to them? Everybody went quiet.
Can you hear me, Steve?
You. Can you hear anybody else?
No.
No. Can you hear? Whoop, they're spinning and spinning and spinning.
I see that.
Steve Chafee, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you, but I can't hear anybody else.
No.
I guess it's just us, huh?
So
I've lost everybody about 3 times. Yeah.
I did too. Did you hear my question, Steve?
Yeah, I did. And that's a good question.
I've always kind of wondered that because, quite frankly, down it went down $100,000.
Yeah.
It really comes down to what the market is doing. And so we don't punish the people by keeping it up. We follow the market, so.
I know, so then we're 2 years behind if it.
Exactly.
Here.
And that's a problem we're gonna have.
I
Is
know.
when the market starts coming down, they're gonna be complaining or appealing because it takes us 2 years to.
Yeah. Mr.
Well, don't
Chair, I
tell
have
me.
one more.
Everyone's
Don't tell
treated.
I always tell my kids it's because all the toys they leave in the yard. So.
Somebody, well, you guys will know. So where are we with Walmart settlement? And is there anything else surprising us?
No,
Oh.
you know, Walmart filed statewide, so I mean, they did this a couple of years ago.
Nothing else is coming?
No, don't get too excited about the Walmart deal, just because the Ramsey counties and the Hennepin counties will take them on and then we'll just follow suit.
Right, that's what I learned, so I was happy to hear that. So we'll let the big guys that have the
We
money.
don't need to take on Walmart. So assessor recommendations? Ryan's got them up there. Do we have?
Oh, do we read them off or I
We
thought?
don't have to read them up necessarily. Are Steve and, they're still there, okay. So on the email today was provided the list of recommendations, that.
Of course, we had more this year because of the pandemic. We weren't able to go out and do the reviews that we typically are able to take care of prior to local boards. So there were a lot of no changes made at local boards. That's why you're seeing so many on this form this year. Because I didn't want the assessors, the appraisers going out until after Memorial Day, until we had more information on what we could or could not do. So we had to get a little creative with how we reviewed the home.
Can you scroll through that? For some reason, my stuff that I got emailed doesn't.
Mine wouldn't download either. So what is this basically saying? They're all no changes? They're all
Nope,
changes you've already
they're all
made,
changes.
met with them?
Yes, they're all changes. So there were no changes made at local board. The appraiser went out and reviewed or it just depends on the situation. So you can look over here. Like this one, it'll tell you the reason and it gives you the amount.
Sure. So, and these people have all been made aware of this, and if they would be
Yes.
here, they would be here.
Yes, so we go out, we do the physical review, for the most part on these. And when we get done, the appraiser inputs the information, the data into the system. And then we send a letter out to the property owners telling them what the change, if there is a change, there's not always a change. But always a letter goes out to the people, so they've got a chance. If they're not happy, they can come here and appeal tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So
it's not always a guarantee that your value is going to be decreased just because you're appealing your value. As you can see, there are 3, I believe, parcels here that their value actually increased. It's our goal to fairly appraise and assess your property. So that doesn't mean just because you appeal, we're going to lower your value.
So you're just,
There do tend to be a lot, more than your fair share of Bremen Township appeals. And that was because the local appraiser, Nancy Fisher, did not call into her meeting. And so the people that were calling in, I had no information for them. So we had to make a lot of no changes. So you will see a lot of those on there.
Steve?
Hi.
are we all still?
Yeah, there'll need to be a motion to accept those.
I'll move that.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion, questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody saying no? I hear no no's. Motion passes.
Well, thank you.
Any other business we need to take care of?
No.
Okay, I'll declare the meeting adjourned. We'll meet back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Same places for everybody, I assume.
Well, it's gonna be here tomorrow morning.
So it should be both of you, Matt and John, back here. Then Ryan and I will be the only staff people.
Okay.
Okay, so do I add?
We seem to have some technical difficulty tonight where we lost the Pine Government Center occasionally.